now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other two books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. This Sunday, the Oscars had the lowest ratings in the history of the program. And this year's ratings were so low that only 9 million people tuned in to watch the Oscars on ABC. Now, some are speculating that the Oscars are having a hard time finding viewers because many viewers are tired of the identity politics being pushed by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and they're also tired of many of these Hollywood celebrities who use the Oscar stage as a platform to push whatever social justice agenda that they try to promote on the show after they win their awards or when they're making a presentation about an award. And most viewers are practically fed up with many of these rich celebrities sitting there pontificating about whatever social justice or political issue they want to push. Meanwhile, many of these same people don't ever lift a finger to help a single person on the street. For example, in order to have the Oscar show this year, they had it at a venue which was surrounded by a lot of homeless people, and in order for them to have their Oscar show, they pushed all of those homeless people out of where they were staying in order to have their show. And that is a textbook example of the type of hypocrisy that many people are fed up about as related to this Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and their whole social justice agenda. Many of these people preach all about social justice on the stage as they sit there and talk and present their awards or receive their awards, but they don't try to do anything to help the average person on the street. And that's one of the things that has alienated the average everyday American as related to the Oscars. They just don't see themselves relating to these celebrities anymore, nor do they see themselves relating to a lot of the content like they used to back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I remember back in the 90s when the Oscars were at their peak and people were watching in large numbers, people getting behind the contest between movies like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump. And people were rooting for whatever movie that they were trying to see was going to win the Oscar because the movie resonated with the viewer. But many of the films that get nominated for Oscars today, they really don't resonate with the viewer, and they really don't tell stories that most Americans or people abroad can relate to. No, when we look at today's Oscar-nominated movies, they usually are some sort of art house movie made by some obscure, unknown director. And while these people are lauded as darlings by the elite in the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, this type of content that they make does not resonate with the average, everyday layperson who wants to just see a movie that entertains them. And it's hard for them to actually see those kind of movies that make social commentary about the human condition and are just plain old entertaining like the old days because Hollywood no longer makes those types of movies anymore. Now, back when I was a lot younger, I could remember older movies like Marty or The Apartment that resonated with me, and these movies were also commercial successes as well. And I can also remember movies like Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, and many others that actually were commercial successes and also resonated with people, and even films that didn't win but got nominated for Oscars, like Saturday Night Fever and movies like Rocky. These movies also resonated with viewers. And we're not seeing Hollywood making the kind of films that resonate with people anymore. And that's another reason why people are no longer tuning in to the Oscars, because we're not seeing ourselves on screen, and we're not seeing stories that talk about the average everyday American and connect with the average everyday American. So Hollywood has stopped making all of those truly great movies that anybody could sit there and say, yeah, I remember that movie. No, these days all we get are usually MCU movies, or we get big budget blockbusters. And this is what most people go to, because Hollywood no longer makes those mid-budget films that used to cost anywhere between $5 and maybe $30 million. That used to be the basic romantic comedies, the basic family comedies, or the basic dramas anymore. So this is another reason why nobody's watching the Oscars anymore, because we're no longer making movies about people. Either we're getting these big budget blockbusters like MCU movies or Fast and the Furious franchise type movies, but we're not getting many movies about the human condition. And the ones we are getting about the human condition are usually these art house movies that nobody outside of a handful of elites really care about. And that goes back to something that when I was doing my work as researching for learning how to write screenplays, one of those core 3 questions, which was, why should we care? And when I look at the question, why should we care, and the only answer I can come up with as related to the Academy Awards is, it's hard to care about any of the movies that are picked when you have many of the films that just are so artsy and pretentious that the average everyday person cannot get behind them. And it's also hard to care about the Oscars when many celebrities get on social media and they start alienating many of their viewers who are the customers. Now, many of the viewers are just practically turned off by all of the social justice and identity politics that are preached by many of these celebrities on social media, but many of these people won't practice anything at all as related to helping the average everyday person. For example, during this pandemic, we have not really heard much from your celebrities as related to helping the average everyday person who, when you have half the country unemployed, nobody's really reaching out and reaching back for many of the average everyday people out here. And many people are just fed up with all of the social justice coming out of Hollywood, when many of these people who preach social justice oftentimes promote and push many racist and many misogynistic and misandristic agendas, and that's something that people are actually fed up with. I myself, when I listen to the Oscars for the last couple of years, I can see one of the reasons why many people got turned off, because again, the show stopped being about the movies and started to be a soapbox about identity politics. And it also became a soapbox for just nonstop Donald Trump bashing. And nobody really wants to see people sitting there using an award show as a soapbox to sit there and just bash Donald Trump for 3 to 4 hours straight. And maybe we'll hear about an award here or there. We're not really hearing about people talking about their achievements in film anymore. And that's another reason why Oscar ratings are all at an all-time low. And I won't also get into how many times for the Oscars over the last 3 or 4 decades, all we get, especially as related to black nominees, are people who fit a certain narrative or push a certain political agenda. The only types of black people who seem to win Oscars usually are black people who are playing slaves, or they're playing big black brutes, or they're playing black Jezebels, or they're out here and they're playing a role as related to promoting alphabet lifestyles. So we're not getting any sort of black actor or black actress playing any sort of role that shows black people in a balanced and humanized way. Oftentimes, when we have people getting nominated for Academy Awards, they usually wind up getting Academy Awards for playing black stereotypes. And that's another reason why many people are just alienated about the Oscars in the black community, is that they don't see these roles presenting a positive picture of blackness or black empowerment. And that's another turnoff as related to the Oscars, which talked about promoting so-called diversity, but we're not really seeing much diversity. Moreover, we're not seeing much diversity after many of these black actors win. So a lot of black people, they look at the Oscars and they go, I don't see many of these black Oscar winners getting really quality roles. I mean, if we listen to Monique, who won an Oscar for Precious, she has not really worked ever since then. And many other black performers, once they win that Oscar, their career goes nowhere. And many other, even white and non-black Oscar winners, because these people are so obscure and unknown, we'll probably never hear about these people ever again. And that's another reason why people don't watch the Oscars anymore, because it used to be an Oscar was an indicator that your career was on the upswing, but now it's an indicator that your career is practically going downhill. So a lot of people look at this Oscar as a death sentence as related to a career, because people who win it don't usually get work anymore, and usually they don't get work in really great projects after they win this award. So winning the Oscar, yes, it was something that had some sort of value over 20, 25 years ago, but in the late 2010s and the 2020s, the value of the Oscar is falling to that of a food stamp. The same thing with the Grammy, the same thing with the Emmy. These awards used to mean a bar as related to excellence. Unfortunately, social justice narratives, identity politics narratives, and just plain old false narratives as related to diversity have cheapened the value of these awards, and now these awards really aren't anything people care about anymore, especially when you've got half the country unemployed due to a pandemic and people focusing on more serious issues as related to how they're going to live, and people becoming more and more fed up with celebrities who practice all of these types of different things and don't really support what they preach. I mean, to push all the homeless people out of near the venue where they were sleeping outside in order to have your award show shows just a clear case of malice aforethought, and it shows that many in the Academy and the awards community and Hollywood really are disconnected and detached from the people who used to watch their content, because people aren't watching movies like they used to, and they're just not really connected and engaged with the content anymore. And this is something that's happened because many people, they would rather listen to a YouTuber like myself rather than sit there and watch many of these celebrities go out here and talk about how they're all about certain things. But when you go outside to social media, you see that they're not about any of those things at all. So people, when they look at the Oscars now these days, they don't see it as having the same high value it did many years ago. And when they look at the Oscars these days, they just see a bunch of rich, stuck-up, pretentious celebrities who want to preach about an agenda but don't really want to practice what they preach, and that makes people not want to go see their movies, and it makes it where they don't want to see award shows where these kinds of people are celebrated. And people don't want to celebrate a group of people who want to talk about social justice but never lift a finger to help the average everyday person, nor do they want to sit there and watch an award show about a bunch of movies that don't relate to them, don't relate to their experiences, and don't relate or tell stories about life that they know about. That's another big problem with your Oscars. They go out here and they go out here and nominate a bunch of movies that can't even get people to come out to the box office for it. Yes, this movie has artsy vision and may have this really flowery and pretentious story, but if the average everyday layperson or Joe and Jane can't get into that story, they can't care about that story. And if they don't care about that story, they're not going to want to watch an award show with a performer in it. And that's something that does not resonate with the people who at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. They don't answer that critical question. They tell screenwriters like myself, why should we care? And why should anyone care about the Oscars, the Emmys, the Grammys? You're not creating talent that really engages or connects with the public, and you're not making content that really engages and connects with the public enough to make them care. You're celebrating yourself, and when you celebrate yourself, why should anybody sit there and watch you celebrate yourself? Because instead of it being an award related to merit and success, it is more about ego and arrogance. And that's what your Sid Field practically said in his book Screenplay, what the Oscars were. Nothing more than a popularity contest that had no real value. And that's one of the reasons why most Americans are tuning out of the Oscars, because it's become a popularity contest with no real value except sating the egos of a handful of elite celebrities. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.